My name is Nikolai Arcel. I'm here with The Promised Land, a film starring Mads Mikkelsen and Amanda Collin, about a man who journeys out to the wild heath in the 70s, 50s Denmark to try to tame the land.
My name is Amanda Collin, and I play Anne Barbara, who is a really brave, cool woman in the Heath in 1755. 55, yeah. I don't know, it's really hard to describe without spoilers, but she's really badass in a soft, sweet, loving way.
It's the film is based on a novel by a female novelist called Ida Jessen, who's quite big in Denmark. This was probably her biggest sort of bestseller book, and also I think her first historical piece. So I read that before it even came out and fell completely in love with it. But it also had a lot of themes that I loved and some very personal things in it for me. So I fell in love with it immediately, wanted to do it. So that was it. It started with that book.
Well, I think always when projects come in, I have an instinct that says yes or no quite fast. And when Nick called, he said a very scarce description of the project, but it was an immediate yes in my whole system. And so it's really interesting to go from there, actually. And 2 years later, we started shooting. So I think also just time in itself is such an advantage. But yeah, also to be able to do some period and to be able to give voice and body to a female in 1755, that was to me really, really exciting. Yeah, an eye opener.
Mads Mikkelsen plays Ludwig Kallen, who is a very ambitious, driven man whose entire sole purpose in life is to become somebody. This film is really about how much is he willing to sacrifice in order to become that somebody. Will his I suppose you could say that the journey, part of the journey, is discovering whether he will lose his soul or gain a soul in this quest to become a man of importance. I mean, the character of Anne Marmouche is actually one of the reasons I even fell in love with the story. She's one of the most amazing characters in the novel, and I really wanted to translate that into the film. That was a really tough role to cast. Obviously, a 9-year-old. We were trying to find her in Denmark, and we couldn't. We had cast like 120, 130 young girls, and then we eventually went to Sweden, which is our neighboring country, where there was just this one standout, incredible girl who we were so lucky to find in Melina Hagberg, who was a joy to work with every single second of the film.
Well, I think always when you work with children on set, it creates a great vibe because everyone relaxes a little bit. Because children are just having fun, and I think it spreads a great vibe on set when they're just like being kids. And Melina is very funny and super entertaining, and yeah, it was a joy to work with
She's
her.
actually very much like her character. She's just like very intuitive and yeah, just laughs all the time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And she couldn't remember her lines half the time, but that we just laughed at that because it's just so fun to be
Yeah.
on the set with her.
She ate a lot of candy.
She did. There's a lot of sugar rushes after eating candy.
Yeah, yeah.
I would say it's inspired by the true story. Ludwig Kallen, Mads's character, is real. The Shingle, the antagonist of the piece, is real or was real. But Ida, who wrote the novel, has sort of fictionalized a great part of the story. She's taken some of the events that happened and sort of made them a little bit her own for the novel. And since we adapted the novel, it's not exactly a true story, but it is. Some of these events did happen. He did go to the Heath. There was sort of there was this antagonism and all these things. But there's certain characters that are her inventions. It's very fun to write an antagonist who knows more about life than your hero does, because in a sense he's a horrible person, but he's also usually the smartest guy in the room, which is really fun to write. So he would have these theories about life and what life is that were probably closer to what my theory of life is, which is that life is basically chaos. And he would keep repeating that, in the script. He would keep repeating that to Ludwig, who's always like, "No, I can control my life." So that was quite. He was a very fun character to write. And again, if it hadn't been for Simon showing up in the casting, I think it would have been a very, very different part. But he made it so much his own.
Of course, when you have 2 years to kind of, as I say, put a character in your pocket and walk around with her for a while, lots of things accumulate. But I, from the beginning, had quite a strong feeling that I needed to keep her as open as possible, to let as many women take space in her, if that makes sense. It's not something that we've talked about. I don't know. I can't remember. But anyway, so there's I kept trying to like pin her down, but I couldn't, and I think that's very much what we see on screen. Then we worked a lot of like, you were kind of scared that I was like too, I don't know, modern, and so we worked a little bit on voice and toning her down, because I'm like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's like this, and then Barbara is a little bit more like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were, but I think you nailed that pretty.
Yeah. But so there's a lot of like different prep, but I think she's a mix. When I see her now, she's a pretty good mix of a lot of women that surrounds me, which I think is very beautiful, actually, if I can say that about my own character. I don't know.
You can.
Or
You
am
can
I
say whatever
allowed
you
to
want.
say that? No, there's a lot of my mom. I mean, it's a character that, a lot of women have gone through this over and over, and women still go through this, like being as modern and having the same wants as needs like I have in my life, but the surroundings don't like allow them to say or do what they feel. And I think when I watched it the first time, I was really like heartbroken, actually, because the big difference between me and her today is that I have the freedom to love, and she didn't, and she fought for it, though. Yeah.
I think my biggest highlight was the highlight of making this movie was probably being on the actual heath where he actually built the real house. We were on the actual location where Ludwig built his house, and every morning when we would sort of get up very early in the morning to be ready to shoot and see the sun rise over this amazing landscape, it felt like being there. It was also quite harsh at times to be there because it was cold and sometimes raining and all, but it was just so beautiful, and we felt that we were truly kind of part of the story that we were telling, which was amazing to me.
And I think also it reflected on the whole team. So, I mean, I said it was a scene that was my highlight, but the whole experience was really, for me at least, joyful and beautiful. And the way that everyone came together and really had like personal. I remember we shot the Christmas scene, and Jette, who does the sets and do all these amazing things, she came to me and she whispered like, "I've made you a little, I don't know what it's called in English, en krans." No, like a little round thing made out of sticks or leaves or whatever it's called. Like, yeah, I thought, and Barbara would maybe have like made this like so everyone kind of like added to our characters and like find little special things that they're so valuable in order to make something whole, I think. And I don't know, to me it was really special that people kept doing that, or like Kiki found a little handkerchief that I had in my pocket the whole time that nobody saw, but it's just like these little secrets I think are super cool. Yeah.